I'm LC Lenz. I'm president of the LaGrange Living Historical Association, which we formed in 1988. The reason for forming our association, we thought we could do a better job of cleaning the mountain up and taking care of the mountain and the cemetery up here than what was being done at the time. And fortunately, in later years, in 1996, we got possession of the park here. And since then, we've moved these log buildings up here, and we have a log village here, even a bed and breakfast. But we've come a long way in 27 years. So at this time, we started out with 14 members, and Tom Pennington is with us today, and he was county commissioner at the time, and we felt like when we met that Sunday afternoon and formed our association that we needed somebody that was in politics that would take our president's job that could help us. And Tom, being a good speaker, we thought that he would make us a good president. So somebody approached him, and he said he would take the job. So at this time, I'll let Tom talk to you a while.
Thank you, LC. I am Tom Pennington, and as LC said, we had a rough time when we first started out. We had no money, and I remember we pitched in $5 a piece to take care of the postage and everything in case we had to mail out some stuff. But the main focus, I guess, that I had on my mind at the time was the cemetery, because it was in horrible shape, and I asked them if it'd be okay for me to start with the cemetery, start trying to get it cleaned up, and they gave me that approval. Went up and we tagged all the graves that we could find that were sunken without markers, and then we put a different marker on the blue ones, and we had blue and yellow. We put a blue marker on the tombs that were broken, and so then that gave us an idea of where we could maybe get dirt in to fill in the sunken graves and all this. So that's how we got started on the cemetery. We had a lot of volunteers to help us in the community, and the White Oak Fire Department was very generous to come and sit by while we burned stuff and all of that. And we picked up, I believe, 4 truckloads of beer cans, garbage, tires, and all of that between here and the cemetery, and got that taken care of. And from that, we went on with what we had to do with. And I'm going to let Ms. Darlington give you her view on how we got going there.
My name is Dorothy Tarleton, Dot to everyone, and as I recall, when we started to clean up the cemetery, while the men were using the chainsaws and axes and all their equipment, Tom had brought his long bed truck up there, and the ladies got into that dump where the beer cans and bottles and trash and everything was, and we really loaded his truck down, as he said several times. I don't know how many times he went to the landfill, really. But we got the cemetery in good shape, where it was safe to walk through it at least, in about a month. Right, Tom? Probably.
That's correct. It took
About a
us
month.
about 4 to 5 weeks.
4 or 5 Saturdays. We usually met on Saturday and worked. And the newspaper, we had said, well, let's have a little memorial service now that we've got the cemetery cleaned up. So we planned a Sunday afternoon memorial service, and the newspaper got hold of it, and they made an announcement about it. So instead of having just a handful of workers that had worked in the cemetery, we had a big crowd turn out that Sunday afternoon. And from that, we started trying to clean up the mountain, the rest of it, besides the cemetery. And it was a labor of love for everyone, because we wanted to try to restore what had once been up here. and everybody in the area knew about LaGrange, knew about the burning of the college, and how the college was called the West Point of the South. It was a fabulous institution in its day, and it's very sad that it was burned along with all the homes that was here on the mountain. There was one place that was left. The ladies had a college up here. It was Lafayette College, and it was on beyond LaGrange, and they were going to burn the last building, and a girl was inside the dorm, had the measles, and when the Union soldiers approached the building to burn it, she was in bed with the measles, and it scared them, and they didn't want the measles, so they ran off, and that building was left standing until about 1929, and I believe it was taken apart by someone at that time.
I believe some of the kings took it apart for the material that was in it. And,
moved it to the valley and built a house with some of the material. But anyway, thank you, Dot, and thank you, Tom. But I'm going to hold up some pictures, and starting with what the college looked like when it was here. But that one will be first. But as I go through these, they touched on cleaning up the cemetery. This is a picture of the day that we had our dedication and opened the cemetery up after we had got through cleaning it up and placing a cable across the front of it where the four-wheel drive vehicles couldn't go down and tear up our tombstones and tear up the cemetery. That's Dot reenacted here. Picture Dot. We have so many. This is Mr. A.P. Bradford, born and raised here on the mountain. But he loved to come up here and help us. And he was in his 80s. And we had a tree over here close to the picnic pavilion that had died. And we was going to have to cut it down. And one day, Ed Ford came by, or Milton Ford, I believe it was, came by, and Mr. AP was cutting the tree down. He said, "You don't need to be doing that." And so between the two of them, they cut the tree down and cut it up. And today we got a Bradford pear growing in the place where that tree was. Beautiful Bradford pear. But down through the years, we've got grants, and we've got funding from different organizations to help us do different things up here. And this is me receiving a check from the Kiwanis there. And on these pictures of that's one of the earliest reenacting meetings that we had, or Recall LaGrange, one of the earliest ones. This was 89, so this was the next year after we formed our association. We had a reenactment, and that's Miss Dodd again in one of her reenactments. So many of these pictures, and picture speaks 1,000 words, and I don't know, when we're gone, I don't know whether these pictures will mean anything to anybody or not, but they mean so much to us. And these, this village, this log village that we put up here, most of these buildings came from Tuscaloosa and Fayette County. Chevron Oil Company bought a lot of land, and they wanted everything moved off of it, so we heard that they had log buildings on the property and they wanted it moved, and so we bid on the buildings and got most of them that we bid on and took them down, brought them up here and put them back up. In 1996, when we took over this park from the state, we went through the legislature and got a bill passed and got it turned over to us in 96. And I say us, at LaGrange Living Historical Association. It wasn't anything here except a picnic pavilion over here and the caretaker house. So to draw a crowd, draw some people up here, some interest up here, we thought it would be a good idea to put these log buildings up here where we would have something for the public to see when they came up here. And today we have a bed and breakfast. People come from all over the United States that stay in this bed and breakfast during the summer. It's a log cabin, so we have to winterize it in the winter. But we're proud of our bed and breakfast, and everybody that stays in it tells us they'll be back. So this weekend we got, not this weekend, next weekend we got people coming from Arkansas staying in it. So again, Tom, you want to say a few words?
Another thing that we need to add to this, when we first started out, we didn't have a place to meet. So we were meeting down at the old tabernacle. That was a tabernacle built by a preacher here at one time. And so then we got the idea that we should try to buy this. Well, the Methodists owned it. And when you get mixed up with the Methodists and all of the paperwork you've got to go through, you spend a lot of time. But it took us, I think, about 3 or 4 years before we ever got it cleared. And we bought the tabernacle. And I can't remember if there's an acre or 2 acres with that LC.
It's 4 acres.
4? Okay, I'm a little bit off. And that gave us parking room for the reenactment, and it gave us a place that we could have a stew if we wanted to, because they had a kitchen that was left, and the front end had fallen in, and that was cleared out and taken off. And then we got across the road was all grown up, and I got with certain people, and they worked out a deal to clean that off. And so that gave us a lot more parking space. And then we would have buses to bus the people from the tabernacle on top of the mountain for the reenactment. That way we wouldn't crowded up here. And other than that, that's about it, as I remember it.